Hey folks, Brian Sweeney with another episode of Regular Joe Grand Strand. This time I want to talk about a letter sent out from Rom Reddy, who's the head of the founder of Doge SC, which is the Doge, as you might imagine, from New York, or might remember from rather Washington D.C. Excuse me, but this applies to South Carolina, and Rom Reddy has captured that name, licensed that name in order to put a label or a name on his effort to try to streamline the agency nonsense and the corruption and delay and waste of money that goes on a routine basis in our state government in Columbia and county level too. Anyway, he's talking about the fact that the CEO of the South Carolina Ports Authority, a woman named Barbara Melvin, was recently let go with anyone would call it a golden parachute. Now, she'd been there for 3 years, and it was part of an 8-year contract. So, anyway, I don't know what kind of talent or experience she might have had in running a ports authority. But one would imagine that if she was doing a good job, they would have kept her there for a longer period of time, considering the contract was for 8 years. Well, anyway, it hasn't been 8 years, it's only been three, and she's been shown the door with a golden parachute. Now, if you look at the other news items, the South Carolina Ports Authority has not done a good job at all. It's been actually terrible. And Charleston, as the main port here, has been losing business to Savannah for quite some time. And anyway, so I guess this raises the question of, if the CEO was so bad, well, why was she put there in the first place? But if she was put in there in the first place and she did a terrible job over 3 years and losing money, and of course, some of you may know that Carnival Cruise Lines decided to exit that port entirely because of its inability to reach an agreement with the Port Authority. So if she was that bad in the job that they got rid of her prior to the end of the contract, then why did they give her a golden parachute? Good question, folks. Some people might wonder if maybe that was hush money. I don't know. Supposedly, it was there to enable her to give consult and advice to whoever her successor might be. That's possible too, but that sort of leaves me a little chilly, thinking that a woman who did such an awful job would be paid to give presumably awful advice to a successor. Anyway, as it turns out, the chair of the South Carolina Ports Authority is another guy who has, or another person who has absolutely no experience with ports, really, is a guy named Bill Stern, who is a real estate mogul and very well connected with certain people, including Governor Leghorn and Attorney General Alan Wilson. In fact, he's given quite a bit of money to their campaign war chest. And according to the paper reports on it, he stands to make about $500 million on a 10-year deal in which DHEC sold the government offices in which it was working, government owned, and then split in two, DHEC, and into whatever its component parts are, the environmental and the health, and is now renting space from Bill Stern. So that kind of begs the question, what was the whole thing behind this? Why is Bill Stern there in the first place? He clearly doesn't need a paying job. But why was Bill Stern allowed to hire this person? This person turned out not to be what they had anticipated. They fired her early. They gave her a golden parachute. Just like, what's going on, folks? Why has this happened? And the golden parachute is pretty extensive. Now, the next part of the story has to do with the fact that a current sitting South Carolina state senator, who also knows absolutely nothing about managing maritime ports, a guy named Larry Grooms, is spreading it around that he'd like to be designated for that CEO spot at $400K plus a year. I guess he's talking to the right ears, who knows. But anyway, people are wondering, wait a second now, you take this guy who's chair of the Ports Authority, who's a real estate guy, doesn't know anything about ports. Then he appoints someone who presumably doesn't know anything about ports either, fires her after 3 years, gives her a golden parachute, and then is rumored to be talking to Larry Grooms, who knows nothing about managing ports, in order to be that person's replacement. Something doesn't smell right here, folks. And when you consider the fact that Larry Grooms is also the one that had that disastrous effort, along with the esteemed Senator Stephen Goldfinch, Goldfinch, excuse me, in trying to oust Curtis Loftus from the treasurer position in a completely wasted effort. Spent hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars on this absolute boondoggle of a routine to try to get rid of Curtis Loftus so that the Senate could take control of the money that Curtis Loftus currently manages. It makes you wonder what this whole Port Authority thing is about. Anyway, if you got Bill Stern involved and you got Larry Grooms involved, you know it's suspicious. Anyway, there'll undoubtedly be more of that story coming along in the next several weeks, folks, and we will keep you posted. Thank you.